I try to perform for the audience at hand, so I reached out to Ed O'Neill. I asked him to call in, and he is on the Mercedes-Benz line right now. The great Ed O'Neill. Ed, thank you so much for taking the time today to call in.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Suzy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, please. Thank you. What, are you kidding me? I'm excited to have you on, and I also know that you happen to like a certain running back Hall of Famer named Marshall Faulk.
Well, I do. I mean, we've never met.
Never.
But
That's
ever
right.
since I saw him in college, I used to tell guys, have you seen this kid, Marshall Faulk? And, some did, some didn't. And then, I followed him throughout his whole career, and I've always said he's one of the greatest running backs of all time. And he was, and that's just a fact. He was phenomenal to watch. A lot of people thought he was undersized. What are you, 5'10", Marshall?
5'11".
5'11". Sorry about that. That's my
okay.
father, 5'11 and a half. He used to say. But you were strong. You weren't muscly, but, you didn't have that muscle-bound look. But, man, you were strong and you could move. What was your 40? You had a fast 40. 4.3?
Not that fast. It was 4.29.
Oh.
Great.
It's nothing.
I had a cup of coffee with the Steelers, and I'm glad I didn't have to tackle you.
Ed, what was your position with the Steelers? Let's talk about your time there.
I was trying for outside linebacker, but in college we ran a 5-4 defense. I played middle guard and defensive end, so I never played linebacker. I never played a stand-up defensive position. I was always on all fours, so I was trying to make the team and learn the position at the same time, which I don't recommend.
So you played nose guard?
Yeah, I played nose guard in college and in high school.
That's pretty impressive, man.
That was Chuck Noll's first year.
Did not know that. Nose guard.
1969, I believe.
Oof. I mean, should I ask, were there leatherheads back then, or is that insulting?
No, but, there was leatherheads when I was in the 7th grade. Our helmets were leather.
Just trying to think.
They were so cool. No face masks.
No, face masks are for sissies.
Because I like to throw the forearm,
Was
legal in those days, by the way. You could throw it like a punch.
Was Mean Joe there?
Mean Joe was a rookie with me.
Yeah, I thought so.
And L.C. Greenwood.
Yeah.
Terry Hanratty was the rookie quarterback with me from Notre Dame because Bradshaw came the next year. Rocky Bleier was in Vietnam. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
I mean, I didn't make it, but
it's okay. Like you say, you had a cup of coffee.
I enjoyed the whatever it was, 2 weeks or whatever I was there.
Like you say, you had a cup of coffee.
I had a cup of coffee, and then I called it a day.
How did you make the turn?
Funny thing, Marshall and Suzy, when they cut me, I made it beyond the thing. Your name is just not on the list. That's how they cut you. They didn't put your name on the list. They just didn't put your name on the list. But I was called into Noel's office, and he was very nice. And he said to me, listen, the Eagles need linebackers. And, we were in Latrobe, PA, at St. Vincent's College. And he said, I made a call earlier, and they'll give you a look. If you want to rent your car, you can drive down there and, see what you can do. And I said, he said, but you got to tell me right away because, they got to know. And I looked at him and I said, I'm done. I was done. I had played for 2 different colleges. I was sick of football, to be honest with you.
Then how did you make the turn?
I had a couple knee problems that I knew weren't going to get any better.
Then how did you make the turn, Ed? How did you make the turn from playing football to acting?
I don't even know. I mean, I did some of it I was drafted into the theater in the school. I went to a Catholic school where the nun ran the theater program, and I was in one of her classes, a speech class. And so she drafted me to be in the plays, which I had to kind of hide from my buddies because they thought it wasn't the thing that I should be doing, But I liked it secretly, you know what I mean?
That's funny. You got drafted.
These guys, it's for the girls, man, and, but it really, well, maybe it was for both. But that's how I got started in it.
Man, that's pretty impressive.
Well, I was a big fan of yours. I'm honest to God. I mean, I can't make that up. You were one of my favorite backs.
Let's talk about you in acting. Because I don't, I watched you a lot. Don't know much about you. Happy that you're a fan of mine. Definitely a fan of yours, man. Watch you growing up over the years.
Well, thank you.
What role or type of role do you like playing the best? Where do you feel like you are at your best?
Well, I think that, obviously these questions, it's like the answer is going to be the most dramatic and also funny, if you can, because I always say that a really good drama has comedy in it. And the really good actors are and when I say good actors, I mean the dramatic actors are also funny. Like Brando was very funny. Olivier was funny. De Niro could be funny. You know what I mean? So I like the drama. Like I did Big Apple in New York for David Milch, and I love that role. I did John from Cincinnati for David Milch, and that was a drama, and I love that role. Yeah, so probably not just straight. Although I did love Modern Family, I love the way it was made, yeah, that's the answer.
And I know it was really rough for you to play Sofia Vergara's husband. I know that's it's just so painful to have to kiss her all the time.
Well, I knew that was going to work, too,
Sign me up for that role, right?
Why did they hire me for this?
It's such a bummer. Can you imagine how that must have sucked you guys to have to put your arms around her all the time?
It
getting
was
too
really
close for a smell.
I tried to avoid because it was tough. It was like you just didn't want to torture yourself.
Is there certain roles that you take or things that you do that challenge you a little bit more, and you're like, man, this is going to require something of me that I don't know that I have?
Well, that Modern Family was that way because I didn't think I was going to get that job. It's a long story short, but they had gone out to another actor, and then they came back to me after a week or 10 days, and they said, what are you going to do? And I said, yeah, I'll do it. And then I thought, how am I going to do it, though? That was I didn't know about the age thing, if that would work. And, but you just jump in, like I'm going to do this thing for FX in late October about the Clippers, and I'm playing Donald Sterling. Now, don't ask me how I know how I'm going to do that role, but I'm growing my hair long, so that's the first step.
Oh, I can't wait to see
and
that
I've
look.
lost about 20 pounds because I'm a lot bigger than,
Is there anything about the actual character that you're kind of worried about as you portray it?
Listen, when I started out, I was very young, and I tried every manner of technique, from method and all those different, Stanislavski and Meisner and Stella Adler and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, I kind of just, I think with experience, which is the most important thing, you just sort of, you get your own thing, and mine was not method. And I never even thought a character was a real thing. It's just words on a page. So you kind of, everything's in, I think that everything is contained in the script. So I don't need a lot of research, if I'm playing a guy in jail. I'm not going to go to jail for 10 days to see what that's like. Because people don't know what you're thinking. And so you just play the scenes. And if you make and you go scene by scene by scene. So if you make the one scene right, you got a good shot of making the next scene right. It's a good start. And you just go from there.
But it will be interesting to see Ed O'Neill here on the Rich Eisen Show, Suzy, Shuster, Marshall, Faulk, in for Rich. It will be interesting to see where you find the humor in Donald Sterling, because I got to tell you, as somebody who covered the Clippers during those years, there wasn't a whole lot of humor there at Staples Center.
He was inadvertently funny. Like I've seen some of the things that he said, over a meal in Beverly Hills, where he might stop in the midst of a conversation and say, "Why do I have to buy their socks?" I mean, I have to buy my own socks, don't you? And I think, he's talking about his players? He's a billionaire. But that's funny, right? You're laughing.
No, I get it.
It's funny without trying to be funny.
I get it.
I got to connect you with Alvin Gentry for some behind closed doors conversations about that very subject, I have to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, all that stuff is very helpful. But at the end of the day, it's everything has to be generated from the script. If it's not in the script, it ain't there.
Well, we're going to generate this from a script. You and I spoke about things that piss you off right now in football. And I said to the guys, I'm like, guys, this is probably the best segment we could possibly do. Like, things that piss Ed O'Neill off when it comes to football.
Here's the thing. There is one thing, and especially that's a pet peeve of mine. The other things are kind of, nitpicking, I would call it.
Yeah, but it's much more fun. It's really much more fun to say things that piss you off, just because then immediately it segues right into a perfect character for you to play.
Okay, so I hope Marshall appreciates this.
I'm going to love it.
So I've been watching these shows, where they get a lot of these guys are ex-players, and they'll come on, and they, the fashion today is the skinny suits with the tennis shoes, and they got the X and O board behind them, and they're talking about the game that's coming or the game that just ended. What's Brady doing? What's so and so, and there might be four of them across, right? So the one that starts talking, suddenly, the word would be over gesticular. That's a theater term, gesticular, overly gesticular. So in other words, you're using gestures with your hands. It can be your legs as well, but usually the hands, which are way overboard, And these guys, the other three will stand like statues. And then when it's the next guy's turn to talk, suddenly it's like someone hit him with a cattle prod, and he'll start doing the same thing. Hands running back to the blackboard. And I'm saying, what are you so excited about? What the hell are you so excited about? It's a screen pass, for Christ's sake. I mean, it just drives me crazy. And I'm thinking, it's not these guys. It's some producer, backstage on a microphone saying, pick it up. Put energy in this. Get the energy.
100%.
Drive it. Like we're going to go to sleep unless they're, doing this wild motions that are ridiculous and the fake voices. Like the fake excitement. That drives, but that's especially true in martial arts and boxing too. That drives me nuts.
Well, you hear that too, Marshall. Sometimes people are talking like, and then the play action, and there he goes, and they're screaming at each other. It's like, guys, chill. It's football. Like you're not on the field.
The thing that drives me crazy is that, and I don't think I want to name any names because these guys do a great job. But believe me, overall, I couldn't do it. But the guys that are calling the game, for example, there's usually two of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one talks more than the other. In the usual case, one's talking more than the other guy, and the guy that talks a lot never shuts up. and he might be in the middle of a story, and the play is starting to go. It doesn't bother him. They keep talking, and I'm saying, I'm watching the game. Shut up! And it's not radio.
That's good.
I'm watching the game. Or they start telling you what these guys are thinking, what they're going to do, what their plans are. I'm saying they don't know exactly what the game happens fast.
The great Ed O'Neill here on the Rich Eisen Show. Suzy Shuster, Marshall Faulk, and Rich Eisen.
I got to tell you, I love it. I love it.
You're here for this, right?
I listen to games with no sound just because I don't want them to get in the way. Like I tell people, when you watch the game, follow the football. Don't follow where they tell you to go.
Exactly.
Now, on top of that,
it's the way you play defense.
See, you're talking to a man who's played the game.
Yeah, no, he gets it. It annoys him too.
Ed, you also really love post-game press conferences where the coaches just spout out things like they are who we thought they were.
Well,
correct?
that thing. Well, that's been going on since even before Woody Hayes. By the way, remember Chris Farley?
Yes.
Well, Chris and I, we had the same manager. Chris was a sweetheart of a guy. It's no secret that he had a few demons. One day I was talking to him, and remember that bit he did on Saturday Night Live about the motivational speaker who lives down by the river?
Matt Foley.
Matt Foley.
He did that with David Spade and the girl that played my daughter on Married with Children, Christina Applegate. And it was the setup was the parents hired this guy to come in and give their two kids, Spade and Applegate, a motivational talk because they were caught smoking dope or something. And his character was that he was a motivational speaker who lived down by the river. It's one of the funniest things you'll ever see. So you got to Google it. Chris Farley, motivational speaker, and he'd sound like this. Because I'm a motivational speaker who lives down by the river. and so I was with him at a party, and I said, "Oh, you think you're smart, Mr. Smarty Pants? Well, you just wait and see what's going to happen to you from smoking those doobies." And I'm sitting with him, and I said to him one day, "I know who you're imitating." He looked at me like, "What?" I said, "I know who you're imitating." He said, Get out of here." Who? I said, "Woody Hayes." He said, "You son of a wow. That's how Woody Hayes talked." You know what? Can I tell you one other funny story about Chris? We were all at Jon Lovitz's house. He had a Super Bowl party. He lived in Beverly Glen. And so, he had a Mexican buffet. And everybody's piling on because the kickoff's going to happen in the screening room. And at the last minute, Farley comes bursting in the door. And he's late, as usual. And he was coming from rehab in Venice. And they let him out for the Super Bowl. So he runs in, gets a plate, he's piling stuff on the plate, and Lovitz says to him, like kidding him, like, "Leave something for the rest of us, And then we all go in to watch the kickoff, and he's not in yet. So like one or two plays, the door opens. Chris comes walking in the door, stops in the doorway, and he got a loaf of Italian bread and cut it lengthwise. And then he put every condiment that was on the table in the bread, everything, mushrooms, onions, carrots, capers, everything, on top of Jon Lovitz's beloved kitten. And he had it between the bread and said, "I'll eat any thing I want to on Super Bowl Sunday."
You put a real cat on a roll?
In the bread.
A live animal.
A live cat. I mean, come on, man. I was laughing so hard I almost fell out of the chair.
I just spit mimosa over my entire set.
TJ
I love Farley. Farley he was a special guy. And all those guys, Spade, all those guys, And I never said a word when I was around those guys because they were always trying out comic bits on me.
I mean, I feel like I just want to just be quiet and let you tell more stories. We could just change the name of the show to Hollywood Stories, Chris Brockman said, right? Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Hollywood
Listen,
Stories.
I'm happy to have done a little bit here this morning. So what's that? Is that it?
No, absolutely not.
We can just sit here and do this all day. I can put my feet up. You can just keep talking. Tell me another story that has to do with Jon Lovitz, a live kitten, and a loaf of bread. I'm begging you.
Oh, my God.
Hey, Ed,
This is awesome.
last time you were in studio about 4 years ago, and I was doing interviews with you in the green room, and I brought up the adventures of Ford Fairlane to you, and your role as Lieutenant Amos, and then you and I sang Booty Time together, and that was one of the highlights of my life.
God.
I'm not going to lie to you about that.
That was a funny show to do. I mean, that show was crazy. I mean, no one knew what was going on in that show.
You and Dice Clay.
Me and Dice Clay. I mean, Clay was out there, you know.
You got a really fast Clay story? You got to have something for us.
Well, you know that. No, but I brought my father to the set one day. My father was visiting me. We were in Malibu. And I thought, well, I'll introduce him to Dice. You know, I don't even know if he knew who Dice was, but Dice walked out of the set, and I said, "Hey, Dice, come here. I want you to meet my dad." "Oh yeah, very. This is my father." And he said, "Hey, do you want to hear my impression of a perfect date?" And my dad said, "Yeah," and he went, "Get out."
Ed O'Neill, everybody. Ed O'Neill. Ed O'Neill, live on the Rich Eisen Show. Ed, you are a gem. You are the greatest. I put you on the spot to come on, and I'm so glad I did. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, Marshall, it's honestly a real pleasure to meet you.
Likewise, man. Likewise. Big fan of yours.
I hope I run into you sometime.
I'm going to make him come to dinner. That'll be it. That'll be the foretop. I promise you. The great Ed O'Neill here on the Rich Eisen Show.
See you, Ed.
I mean, honestly, you guys, you're
Oh,
welcome.
man. It's classic.
You're welcome.